So if you're going to evaluate a setup, it helps to understand what you're looking at. So I'm going to talk about my mage. This mage is not like my primary character or main. It doesn't have the best gear, but its gear is not terrible. It's got a mix of older raid gear and newer pieces that are, slowly upgrading my slots. The main thing is the gear is still effective up to level 125 spells. Next expansion, all of this gear is going to have to go away to a large extent. So this is just some examples of the gear that I have to give you an idea. And you can go, oh, that's really good gear, or that's really terrible gear. It's probably pretty good if you're a group magician, but I'm making some compromises in terms of hit points and stamina, etc. And so here's the sleeves. Those are really a key piece of gear because they increase my fire damage spells a lot. This bonus will decay on spells over level 125. So obviously, next expansion, when we go to 130, I'm going to have to replace these. My Summoner's Earring, it's not the greatest, but it's really nice. It's an EM31. This is, I believe, NOS raid gear. This is from North Tower of Row. It was an upgrade for what I was having before. This is, I think this dropped in AC in the TOB expansion. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure that's where it dropped. Gloves of the Enthralled. My Evolving Necklace. And my type 5s, I pretty much divided them between Heroic Stamina and Heroic Intelligence. And you can see that's about where I'm at. I thought that was a nice compromise. I have not upgraded to the latest and greatest type 5s. My type 7s are marginal, and I think this will tell you where this character has fallen in terms of who gets loot priority. I pretty much defer to anybody I'm with in terms of loot, and especially on this mage. My rogue is the star of the show, the best geared toon I have. My warrior is in gear that is very similar to what my mage has. In other words, a mix of TOV, NOS, and raid gear, and later group pieces that are slowly replacing what I get. But the augs are much better on my warrior. And in COM, it's when I sort of realized that my warrior is perhaps falling behind a little bit because I can tank pretty well in TOB, but those COM mobs hit hard. So this is my setup. This is how I play a mage. You watch the little introduction where I was killing a mob. You got to see it. I have 7 hotbars, and I have a number of spell sets. The way I do it as a mage lineup is all 14 spells, and then I swap in and out with AE spell set, group COTH, mini pets, monster summoning, and pet toys. Each one has its own purpose, and they don't rememorize all. They're just a blank set except for the specific spells that I'm going to want to keep, so that when I memorize this spell set, it doesn't replace all the spells. It just replaces the specific spells for that set. So let's walk through my 7 hotbars. The first 2 you see, Suspend Companion and Reclaim Energy is if I am low mana and I want to quickly go to full, I will use basically it's the canny dance, in which I suspend my geared and buffed pet, and I summon a monster pet, and then I reclaim energy, summon a monster pet, reclaim energy, and this little social tab just makes it a little bit easier. And then also I have here the socials, I just wanted to break those up. You see this obviously to put my mercenary on active and passive. If you're grouping and pulling or doing anything special with the mage, you definitely want to be aware of what the status of your mercenary is so that it doesn't heal you at the wrong time or heal your pet or mess up pulling. That's all that is. Summon companion, companion's reaction, etc. This is just pet stuff. Tranquil and blessing, mass blessing, my various invisibilities. So this is just a utility bar. These two are these mini pets. I really only use them if we get ads and I want to quickly put pets on the ads to give me time to send what used to be called swarm pets are now reduced to one pet. I don't use them against the name. They don't do any particular damage. They're just there for something that goes wrong, gives me a little more flexibility. Summon your cauldron. These are if I happen to get mana tonics that come through the cauldron. A rabbit. Rabbit stays up a long time, and it's one more pet. I do use this like generally for named or something where I want to quickly see if I can make that difference of having 3 pets up, 6 pets up, 7 pets up. I want to be doing the max damage with my of many line. Rage of Rolfrin. I will, working with the monk, I'll click that. Thought Unity, that's very special. I only use that when I'm using a magic spell because that's what it boosts. It boosts magic spells. And for my lineup, that generally means the AE magic beam spell. Ethereal form. Yeah, so this is just not an important, these 2 lines are not important, but I want to show you what they are. Now we come to the next one. This is much more important. Number pad 1 is my attack hotkey, and you'll see there X target 1, or it'll be an assist. I change this depending on who I'm grouped with and how we're doing it. Pet swarm so that I don't lose all those pets that I've summoned. Pet attack. Stance reactive. If I go into combat, I want my mercenary active now. And Scent of Thule. I need to change that. You can tell that this was built for my Necromancer. It's built off of my Necromancer to a large extent. That needs to be Malinaise. I will fix that. Let's see. And can you see? So attack number pad 2. What I generally just do is 1 and 2 because I never really thought about this being completely wrong. Kind of embarrassing. So I always just do send in the pet, then I do Malaise. Eradicate magic, and then it's burn stuff. Host of elementals, start the burn, improve twin cast, spire of elements, frenzied burnout. This is to summon the orb, and that actually is worth summoning and using. That is essentially getting off a 5th spell in your 4-spell rotation. It's about 12% of your actual DPS, of your DPS. Now, your DPS is broken down into 3 categories. 1 is your swarm pets. 2 is your personal DPS with your spell rotation. And 3 is your pets DPS. And the bulk of your damage will come from your swarm pets. Next will be your own personal damage, your procs, your spells, etc. And of that, the orbs are not insignificant. Force Rejuve, Drape of Shadows. So if I hit the number pad negative sign, it's going to get me out of combat really quick. I do that all of my characters, number pad negative sign. For me, I always know what that's going to do. Every single character, if I hit that, it's going to escape me in one way or the other. Next one, this is triggered by 1, 2, 3, 4, my regular number keys. I don't use a lot of these, but I do. I'm very stern on my mana regen abilities, and we've got 4 mana regen capabilities. One is your spell that summons mana. 2 is your AA mod rods. 3 is your personal mod rods. 4 is elemental conversion. I don't let myself get down much before I'm using 1, 2, 3, and 4. I use those as they're up if I'm at all down in mana. And if you do that, mana is not going to be an issue, and you're not going to have to do the candy dance often at all. And then we've got, so I've got the modulation shard here, Shield of Elements, Oath of Frostbane, Staunch Recovery, Mend Companion, etc. That's what we're talking here. Now, this hotbar at the very bottom, if I hit the E key, it's going to do Call of a Hero. If I'm soloing, I'll often just slip my Stein into it, and the E key becomes an instant evac if I lose control of a situation. Because I'm soloing, I often prefer to just port to POK rather than die. And then I can just port right back very quickly. These are usually handled in a different way. For instance, if you go up to my burn key, start burn, that's silent casting Heart of Skyfire and Focus Arcanum. And so I can do these, I can trigger these manually by going to this hotbar, or I can just do the start burn and all 3 of these will go down. But what this also gives me is if I hit the start burn thing, I will have a visual sign that these AAs have actually been activated and haven't failed to activate due to lag or something like that. And if there's an issue, I can take care of it. Then we have Second Wind, Fortify, Companion, Host in the Shell, Companions, Aegis, that word. I'm so bad at pronunciation, guys. Again, I have a way to trigger these through a hot bar, but I can also trigger each one individually. It depends on how I'm doing, how I'm playing. I like to give myself alternate things. Then there's just some little buffs that you can do in your mount. So now you've seen that. Nothing fancy here. Okay, this is probably the fanciest setup, or fanciest portion of my setup. This is the same hotbar, but in this case I hit Control number pad 1, Control number pad 2, Control number pad 3, and Control number pad 4. By doing that, I'm changing the order in which spells are going off. The first one is my basic 4-spell rotation. And when I say 4-spell rotation, this is Twin Cast. Twin Cast does not count, but it will trigger if it's up, because I always use Twin Cast when it's up. I don't save it. So the first thing is you summon a pet, Twin Cast if it's up, you hit your Of Many, Chaotic Malaise, and then your biggest spear, your most current spear. So that's all you can get off. You get off 4, and then pet is refreshing. So you in your rotation, you're always going to have pet up, because that's how you do your synergy. And it's also the bulk of your damage. And it keeps the pet, the mobs occupied. The second one is Of Many. And that's going to be your biggest DPS as long as you've got plenty of pets on. And if you go to that attack key, it's sending those swarm pets. Pretty soon, you're always going to have at least 6 pets up. The third is your chaotic spell. That's going to be your procs. You want to use that. And so finally, you have a 4th spell. The 4th spell is your choice. Usually, it's going to be a spear. And so this first bar, the spear is the last spell in the 4-spell rotation, not counting Twin Cast. The second bar, I put Of Many at the end. There are certain situations where you don't have a lot of pets up, and Of Many isn't triggering as much. Or maybe you want to start out with control 2, and then you switch to control 1 once you've got more pets. The bulk of the time, I'm going to be using the rotation of my swarm pet, of many, chaotic, spear. That's it. I use that, especially when I'm grouped with a second mage, when you're always going to have tons of pets up. Then you have Force of Elements. Between a cast, you can hit that again, and that will go off. It will also cause Bane to trigger if it can trigger. A lot of time it won't trigger. It's no harm. And then you've got your orb. And it's worth the recast. In other words, take a little break, because this does do significant damage. You should be using your orbs. It does make a difference. And when you set it up this way, there's not a lot of thought process, because it's just going off in between your spell casts. Turn summon, that's not there. It's not going to work because you've got an orb, which is an item. It basically blocks turn summon. But if you are going against summon mobs, then you probably want to swap this out. There's just certain, I've just found that turn summon doesn't work. I don't like having it always trying to go off. So I put it where it is, but you can swap it out. And then buff pet, if that's, I hit the P key, that's my mash line, and these make these go off. F is a buff pet, and if you look down here, second wind, it'll hit, here's the hotbar. Second wind, fortification, command, shielding, host in the shell, Aegis. If you hit F, whichever one is still active, the top one, it'll go off. You can choose whether to do that or to trigger them manually. Depending on how busy I am, sometimes I like to just use the social key. If I've got a little more time or a little thought for, or I'm pet tanking and I really want to have control, then I've got the hotbar here to do it manually. The third key is beam. So if you have a certain number of mobs, sometimes you'll do more damage if you AE beam the additional adds. And there's a chart that's coming up next, and I'll explain that. But the first one is my magic beam. And if you're using your magic beam, this is the one time when I use Thought Mage's Focus, which enhances the damage of a magic beam a lot. And for 90 seconds, you're going to be able to use this magic beam for a lot of damage against a certain number of mobs. There's a chart coming up. We'll explain when you want to do this. Number 4 is my fire-based beam. And if this is down, then I want to be using the fire. And I've memorized both of them, and I just swap in and out. So we've explained here, down here, this, if you look at this carefully, you'll see how I've set this hotbar to make everything go off. You see the F, you've got the P's, you've got control number pad 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all you need to know about. So now we go down to the chart. This is not my chart. This is put together by Sanctus of Realm of Insanity. And I like to say he wrote the book on how to raid as a mage, because he wrote the book on how to raid as a mage. His Magician Raiding Guide is updated through NOS, which coincidentally is when I pretty much stopped raiding. And while I did not directly learn this from him, by reading his guide, I've learned the majority of what I know about how to mage. Track the guide down, read it. You'll learn more than you've learned in my videos. But if you're using your magic beam and you've got 1, 2 targets, don't beam. It's not worth it. You do your standard weave. If you've got 3+ targets and you're using TF plus magic beam, then you hit RS of many beam. If you've got 8 targets, you really just want to hit, because beam instantly refreshes, you just want to spam that. Use that over and over and over. If you're using your fire beam, 1 to 5 targets, you just use your standard weave. So if TF is down, in most cases, you're never going to use an AE spell. If you've got 6+ targets, TF is down, you'll go into your beam rotation, and you'll never want to spam beam because fire is not that effective. Now, this is 6+ targets. In my experience, maybe it's 5, but let's not question Sanctus. It really probably depends on where your focuses are, and I've got some room to go on different things. A quick little other note, they seem to have resolved the pet proc issue. I've gone on the Mage Discord channel, and it seems to be there is agreement that they have fixed that issue, and so now you don't need to worry about pet procs unless you're playing an enchanter. There is a nuance with enchanters. I'm not going to get into that because I'm talking about mages here. Next, there is a final hotbar. I'll show it to you. This is just a utility hotbar. You know, corpse drag, perfected levitation. There's a way to block and unblock heals if you want snappy or mercenary healing. This is what I do, but I do know there are some people who just say, no, don't do that. They don't block anything a mercenary cleric does. I personally don't see a lot of difference in either way when I'm playing my warrior, but when I'm soloing or moloing on my rogue, I find that blocking the heal over time and things like that does make a difference, because a rogue moloing is always on the edge of dying. And I poured out, if I'm moloing on the rogue, and I can molo through the entire expansion of TOB, the entire expansion, as far as partisan and mercenary tasks, but it involves dying and porting out a lot, and it's not fast. It's something you do as a challenge, and I think I mentioned my rogue is my best geared, best A8 character that I have right now. I really enjoy the rogue class. I play it a lot, though I don't consider myself a master of it. And that's it for this video. I hope you got some tips out of it. Don't create a setup that mirrors mine. Take what you can from it and then make your setup work for your play style. Hey, take care, guys. Quick little video. Talk to you later.